It says recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. We are really excited to come to you today and bring you frank, fun, and focused discussion to move your business forward, one bite-sized action at a time. We are available to watch and enjoy every Tuesday morning for a new episode at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And we try to engage you throughout the week with interesting polls on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So make sure you weigh in each and every week. I am Pam. I'm a remote work expert, and my mission is to help you reimagine work to find joy. And I've created a community designed to help you do just that. I call it The Zone. And I'm joined by my co-host, who I'll let introduce herself.
I'm Erin. I'm a copywriter and marketing strategist, and I work with high-powered action takers to get their messaging and strategy just right so that they can connect with their ideal audience. So if that sounds like you, we should talk. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're talking about when you need a website for your business. And one of the reasons that we're bringing this up is that there's lots of times, whether you're just starting out or you're making pivots or changes to the way that you operate, and you want to make sure that the way that you're talking about your business matches up with who you serve, how you serve them, and what that actually looks like so that you're communicating very well. And so we went out in social media into one of the polls that Pam, you were just mentioning, and we asked, and I just deleted my notes on what we asked, but we asked when you need a website for your business. And the majority of people answered sometime in the first month. And the options, just so you are clear, they were like never. And some people did answer never, but there was also like, have it ready to launch when you start, have it ready pretty close to when you start, or, once you're established, like within that first year. So, Pam, I know that you have thoughts on this. And when we were doing our pre-show, you wanted to weigh in after I weighed in, so I'll just keep talking through.
I'm listening. This is your thing anyway. Like your
One of the things that I do a lot of is, as you just said, is website copy, because I really love to help businesses of all kinds. But my special there's a special place in my heart for more traditional businesses who are trying to navigate the online marketing world now that just about every business is an online business in some way, shape, or form. So my thoughts here are that you need a website for your business pretty much right away, especially if you're just starting out now. Could you have built one over time, or just be getting ready to launch one now if you've been in business for 20 years? Absolutely. But I do feel like every business needs at least a simple website, because it's the first thing that you do when you're looking, if you're going to hire someone, is you Google them or you look them up online. And so people need to at least have a very clear picture that, oh, this is a real thing. Look, they've got a website that lends some serious legitimacy. And it just sends the message. It's like, you're the real deal as soon as you've got that site. And it doesn't mean that you're not real if you don't, to make it very clear. But if you were hiring two people and you didn't have the opportunity to call them for whatever reason, whether it was over a weekend, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to Google them. And the person with the website that speaks to you and shows what they do, that's going to be the one you call first. And so if on that first call, you talk to them, you talk to someone you like, you get a great feel for it, you're almost going to hire them right away. And you're not even likely to give that second guy a chance, whether or not the second guy has a greater reputation or not. So that is my opinion. I think that you need one right away for all of these reasons and so many more.
So I totally agree with Erin, with a small caveat. And that is that as soon as you have your idea and you're thinking about doing something, or you've start talking about what you do. what you're going to offer, what services either you're going to offer or you think you're going to offer. Because when you do that, you are planting seeds, which is what I talk about all the time. You're getting people to know who you are and what you're doing. And I don't want people to hold back and reserve that visibility because they don't feel legitimate without the website. Now, Aaron will talk about this later. We'll give some tips later of how it can even be one simple page that is probably inexpensive and DIY and a placeholder. But I always say, figure out a way to get payment so that if somebody actually says, I want to hire you to do organizing my house or painting something or designing something or whatever it is that you do, that you can immediately say, I take cash, you can pay me on PayPal because I take credit card. And that's all you need to sort of have answered so that you're not caught off guard and you seem legitimate. The website should come, in my opinion, as quickly as you can after that point. And a lot of times I work with clients who feel like they won't go out on social media and start networking. They won't go out in person when they're comfortable doing so, or talk to even their friends and family about what they're doing without the full web presence because they don't feel real without it. And I think that's a mistake because it takes a really lot of practice, I guess, and sometimes time for people to gain the clarity they need to have a succinct elevator pitch that's like that 30-second answer to what do you do that you can offer. And sometimes even when you have it initially and you're clear on it, it takes that time to practice that pitch to see if it's going to convert to people saying, oh, that sounds really cool. I want to hire you, or I know someone that needs your services. So communicate what you're doing and be visible early, often ASAP to refine those things, which will help you when you hire someone like Aaron or you do something yourself or however you want to put the website together. Be really, really clear to articulate what you do, who you do it for. Because that's the first thing that any of us who you work with are going to ask you, which is, what do you do? Anyone else as well?
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, I don't think it's like a chicken before the egg thing. I think this is like one of those scenarios. This is a really bad analogy, but it's like where the chicken and the egg grow up together simultaneously in this time warp. Yeah. But, and you can put something out there. And I just think 2 years ago when I went to start, the very first thing I did before I started talking about it, which is probably totally backwards, and I agree with a lot of what you've said, was to have something. And it was not pretty. It was not fancy. It was basically a glorified resume, but it was better than a resume because it was a little more dynamic. I could direct people to go there. It was more dynamic than LinkedIn, whereas LinkedIn works. And we have feelings on that. And I think that's a topic for a different podcast too. But what my very first one did was it had my name. It had some of the things I could help you with. I wasn't real clear at that point in who you was. But it had a list of the things that I was interested in doing and that I thought I could help and where the positioning was. And more importantly, how you could contact me. And even if that's all your website does, I call that kind of level 1 copy, is something that's very clear about what's offered and how it works and how to contact. Is it great? No, but it was somewhere where I could send people to be like, hey, look, this is me. Here's what I do. Or here's some of the ways that I can help you. And I think that it doesn't take the place of conversations. But again, it's like, oh, look, there's a photo of her. It kind of matches up with her photo on social media. Oh, I think
you're right. It's a level of credibility.
And you can do stuff like this in Canva, by the way, where you can create a bit.ly to a Canva page. And it's basically just an interactive PDF. And it's not fancy, and it is not something that you'll want to run with for longer than a couple of months, probably. But it does help you kind of in those early phases and give you the access to edit while you're figuring it out.
Absolutely, because I think it's really important to find that right person who you can work with when you're ready to hire someone to help you with the copy, the content, the design to up-level your site. And it's important to make sure that your offers are clear. When people come to me with 87 offers, I do all these things, I start smiling and I'm like, I did that too. Now let's come up with 3. And they look at me and they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you can do all those things, but you can't market all those things because people are going to be confused and it seems counterintuitive. And so I think there's a lot of strategy behind what I do with my clients, what you do with your clients, that naturally comes out. And people look at their website almost like a brochure sometimes of all the things that they can do.
It's like when you go to a restaurant and there's like a 42-page menu.
Yeah.
Like, what do I want?
Specials. What's good today?
It's funny. There's a story, like when I lived in Costa Rica for a while, and we went down to Panama for, it was a week or so, maybe a long weekend. I can't remember. But there was this great little restaurant, and it was out in a pier, and you could literally look down through the floor and see the fish. And they had this amazing menu. It was phenomenal. And so you'd look at it and be like, oh, this looks great. And they're like, oh, we didn't catch that today. And so then you'd like go back through, and finally after the third time, it was like, okay, well, what did you catch? And then it's something that's not even on the menu, which is just so funny. So it's about like that. I mean, I feel like there's an analogy here, and I'm probably, it's a squirrel.
I think your website, it's a matter of kind of putting first and forefront what your most popular services would be, or your best starting points are going to be. So getting clear on that is something that really helps. And also, you're not giving someone like all the choices. Like, they might want all the things, but once you get to know them as the professional, you might, or I might, depending what we're working on, might say to a client, you know what, you do need these 3 things you want, but before you do those things, you really should start here. So it's guiding a client to show your expertise by limiting where you start. And I think that that's really important. And I have a fun story, since you told one about international travel and a menu, that I just want to share because it's very similar. We went, my husband and I at the time were not married yet, but we went, he surprised me to this amazing trip to Italy. It's a long story, but a great one for another time. But we went at one point to Bologna. And in Bologna, Italy, there was this amazing restaurant where they gave you 2 choices. We have this and this today. And I didn't even half understand the choices because I only knew a little bit of Italian. So you kind of don't even know what you're ordering. And you have this like 5 or 7 course, I don't even remember, meal, and they're giving you Prosecco the whole time. So like, I think the food was good, but by the end, who knows? Because I had so much Prosecco. And it was just an amazing experience because they were doing what they did best, bringing you the experience that you wanted that you didn't even know. And by the time I left, one of the men handed me a rose as I left. And I was like, oh my gosh, dinner, amazing dinner, like ever-flowing Prosecco and flowers. Like, what's not to love about this? And so I think that's the kind of experience that we all kind of want for ourselves and to provide our clients. And when you limit what you're putting on your website to show them where to start so you can guide them with your expertise, you're giving them that fine dining experience they don't even know they want. And
that so pre-fee menu. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a great story. And I bet your husband looked really, really good at that point because you're like, and he's like, score, way to go, guys.
It was amazing. Yeah, awesome. He was amazing. I have great pictures. I'll have to find some and post them sometime. But I think,
it's about the difference between putting everything you can do on the menu versus like curating it.
Exactly.
And I think it's also about controlling the narrative.
Absolutely.
And I know I've told you, Pam, but there was a virtual conference for copywriters that I went to the first week in April. And one of the speakers blew my mind. I decided I wanted to be her new best friend. And I kind of stalked her a little bit on social media. And I was like, can we be friends here? What about on LinkedIn? What about here? And so she was very gracious and kind to me. But her talk was all about, you're known for what people say you do when you're not in the room. You're not known for what you think you do or for what you say you do. So if you're talking about all the things you can do, which I am so guilty of, so this is kind of a do as I say, not as I do, but talk about what you want to be known for.
That's right.
And for me, I'm working on that being the marketing strategy and the copywriting. For you, Pam, I know that's reimagining work and supporting people through these journeys. So I think the key takeaway to relate this back to the website is, and to your point, Pam, is that you only want to put on there what you really want to be known for. And while you're figuring it out, you can put more, but don't overwhelm. And I mean, I love working with people who have worked with you or people who have helped them build their packages because they're so clear on what it is that it makes, well, it doesn't make my job easy, but it makes it easier to find the commonalities to create this copy because it creates this big
But
cohesive
your clients
picture.
happier with what you provide them because they're more clear in telling you. Because we don't read minds, and it's really hard when you have a big vision and there's a lot of things. So many people that we meet, we're so lucky, have so many skills. They have so many experiences. Even when they don't know what they want to do with them, they come to me and say, "I've done this for my whole life, but I want to do my own thing, but I don't know where to start." And I'll say, "Well, make a list of the things that you're good at." And at first, they look at me like, "I don't know." And then when we start, it's like 2 pages long, and we have to like whittle it down, and it becomes almost funny because they didn't know where they were starting. But when they can whittle it down and give you something clear, it gives you a lot to work with, and then they're going to be happier in the end. And you said something, and we've kind of danced around this, but I want to make a clear point that your website is living, breathing, unlike a print material. So it's ever changing. So right now, I'm personally, and who knows when you'll watch this podcast, if it's 5 years from now, just know that on May 28th, 2021, this was true, that I am going through kind of rebranding visually and also with my word choices and my content so that it reflects truly who I am and what I do and what I've been doing for a long time. And, it's something that's not static, and it's okay. It's frustrating. Like, I want it done now because I want anyone that comes to any of my sites to have a really firm grasp that I'm going to help you reimagine work to find joy, what that looks like and what that can mean for you. But it doesn't always. And, I had this interaction a couple weeks back on a Facebook community where somebody wanted to join my Facebook group and then wrote me and said, "I love your messaging and I love what you're doing." And then I got in your group and the description was like very different. And I was like, "Oh, I haven't updated that yet. It's a work in progress." And they stayed and they're engaged and they're happy. But it's just a matter of realizing that we talked last week about progress over perfection. These things evolve over time. So when you get started, start somewhere, throw up the quickest 1-page, "Hi, I'm Erin and I help you with copy. Here's how to reach me in my email." Even if it's
coming soon. Yeah.
It's coming soon.
And if soon is like a year or 2 or 3 down the road, that's fine. Soon can be so relative. Sorry to interrupt there. It was just like,
oh, you're right. But that's exactly my point. You're spot on. So, a lot of these things depend on the industry that you're in. And, you may not have a technical background and your first page may be like the most basic thing, and then you go on and everyone tells you used, I'm not going to start naming tools because I'm not really meaning them, but you use this to build it, you should use that to build it. It doesn't really matter.
It does
right
not
now
matter. What matters is that you get something up there. And we talked last episode about just getting it done. Exactly. That was episode 6 for anyone who's interested, where we talked about progress over perfection. Throw something up there. And when we say get it done, it's not forever. I mean, what's on the web theoretically does live forever, but doesn't mean you can't edit, you can't change it, you can't say, "Oh, I went into this to be, I don't know, a computer programmer," and you become a management specialist. There's nothing to say that where you start has to be anywhere like where you end, but just have some kind of home on the web that you can direct people to, that links to all of your social media, that links to your email address, and gives you a starting point.
And you're like, making 10K months or more and in business, and you're like, "I don't know why I'm watching this episode still. I just like Erin and Pam." Just know that we also, think this is important to consider along the way of when you revisit your website and how, both on the small tweaks, but the bigger overhauls. But more importantly, it really comes down to like that first impression that you're making on your site, and knowing that you're making the right first impression, whether it's your first day in business or your 10,000th day in business. Are you drawing people in and showing up the way you want and the way they need you to? And we're going to be talking about that in our next episode. And I'm just bringing that up because I think it's really important to make that distinction. Like, a lot of times in math growing up, I felt like the teacher or the professor would go to like calculus. I never really learned calculus, but would go right to the calculus and forget the 1 + 1 = 2. And we didn't want to do that when we talked about website with all of you, because so many people get different guidance along the way. And so many people start their businesses with different insight, perspective, and knowledge that not everyone knows the basics. And even people who have been doing it a while sometimes are overthinking it. So if you're looking at your website thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's a disaster," then put the 1-page simple page "coming soon" back up. Make sure they can reach you while you revise if you don't feel it reflects you, instead of doing something drastic.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, if it's a mess, it's okay. Like, it's okay to be wherever you are. I have worked with companies who are brand new, and I've worked with companies that have been around, like multi-million-dollar companies that have been around for a long time that aren't real clear on their websites, or there's some big errors. So the big guys don't always get it right either. And like you said, it's all about the first impression. And as you change, the first impression you make needs to change too. So it's my belief that, yes, of course, I think you need a website in the first weeks to months that you're in business, but I think it's something that you should revisit, if not every year, then every 2 to 3 years, because no matter what, as technology changes, your processes change, and probably how you operate changes too. And so your site has to reflect that. So, and we'll talk more about that in future episodes.
And if you're listening and you're like, I don't really know where I am, I don't know what I need, we can help you. If it's messaging, Erin can help you. If it's clarity on what you do, what you offer, that's me. And if you need both, we do offer things together. So always feel free to find us on social and message us, or you can email hi@thezonecommunity.com, and we'll make sure that you find whoever you need, whatever you need. Even
whenever you need it.
Because that's what we're here to do. But over the next week, please make sure that you are checking in on social so that you can chime in on the poll. We're going to be posting it, and it's going to be talking about some first impression questions related to your website. I'll keep it coming your way.
We haven't defined what those questions are yet, so that's what we'll be doing as soon as this episode's over.
Exactly. So the poll's coming soon. And then next week, tune back in 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday and let us know that you're there always by commenting and putting #replay, because we like to hear from you. And we do go back and check and try to check on comments for all of our platforms too. So if you have questions there, we'll catch them. But we're going to talk about how do you make that first right impression with your website, because that is really what's important no matter where you are.
Agreed. All right. So everyone have a great day, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.